This lecture is titled The Formation of True Love in Don Quixote, how characters are led into marriage for romance, not marriage by arrangement. So the primary topic of this talk is romantic marriage versus arranged marriages in Don Quixote. In Don Quixote there's a sharp contrast between the love-based pattern of modern marriages, typified by a joining of desires and a merger of personalities, and the domination, submission pattern of medieval marriages based on an arrangement where property, family, money, inheritance, and title, if there is one, are important constituents. Contrary to the view that marriage is a business arrangement designed to elevate one's social standing as much as possible, Cervantes shows readers that love can only grow from philosophic mutuality, intellectual agreement, and emotional closeness as well. So now turning directly to the book, if we look at the novel's many different courtship and sexual tales, we will see Cervantes' aversion to economic marriages on the one hand, void of love, esteem, and affection, and his espousal of romantic marriage on the other hand, where each partner truly loves and values the other. For instance, if we look at Basilio and the poor and Quitera the fair's union, we will see that Cervantes inevitably leads women and men into marriage for love, not marriage by arrangement, by having them marry their childhood sweethearts, even if they are relatively poor. By way of background information, since Basilio and Quitera are next door neighbors in the same village, Basilio falls in love with Quitera when he is a boy of tender years. In return, Quitera shows her love for him with, quote, 1,000 innocent displays of affection, end quote. As they grow up, Basilio and Quitera's mutual love is so pronounced that, quote, people amuse themselves in the village by telling each other about the love affair of these two children, end quote. Despite this fact, however, Quitera's father is more concerned with the material side of marriage, wanting his daughter to marry a man who is able to provide for her material well-being and comfort. Thus, he arranges for his daughter to marry Camacho the rich, not Basilio the poor, since he can literally bury Basilio in gold coins. Such a stance leads to discussion of whether marriages should be arranged by one's parents, divorced from romantic attraction, and usually for economic reasons, or based on the personal romantic desires of a couple. Since ultimately Quitera the fair marries Basilio the poor, not Camacho the rich, Cervantes defines marriage not as a master-servant, owner-property connection, but as a relationship of friends where each partner tries to please and advance the other. Similarly, the relationship between Don Luis and Donna Clara is not based on indissoluble law, clanship ties, or social pressures, but rather is predicated on mutual togetherness and a comfortable sense of fitness. Like Basilio the poor and Quitera the fair, Don Luis and Donna Clara grew up together, since he is the son of an Aragonese gentleman who lives across the road from her father's house in Madrid, and she is the daughter of a civil court judge. Evidently, Don Luis tells Donna Clara of his great love for her with, quote, such signs of affection and tears of grief that she ends up believing him, even loving him back. Yet, in Donna Clara's view, Don Luis' father will block their union since he is, quote, so high up and so rich that he won't think her fit to be his son's servant girl, let alone his wife, end quote. As before, these star-crossed lovers love each other so much that they end up marrying. In short, since Cervantes sees romantic love as the best way to choose a spouse and build a marriage, he argues that we need not be trapped by the prevailing mores and marital customs that prevail in any given time. Likewise, for Marcella, marriage is not merely a genetic device with economic and political value for the property classes and household and welfare functions among the lower classes, but rather is a very special, intimate bond between two like-minded human beings motivated by the desire to love and be loved. In other words, when searching for a soulmate, Marcella is not driven by a desire to forge a physical union empty of all values, nor is she motivated by the political benefits her family may gain by the allegiance that she makes. Instead, she sees true love as an emotion in which the, quote, soul is incited to join itself willingly with objects that appear agreeable to it, end quote. For this reason, she expresses a firm right to live free in the countryside among the company of shepherds, with no one to stop her from living and loving as she sees fit. Therefore, Marcella retreats to the clear water of streams and the shady boughs of trees to escape the arrogance and disdain and murderous intent of disappointed suitors. Preferring to dress up as a shepherdess to enjoy a bucolic pastoral lifestyle, Marcella diminishes the patriarchal land-based economic view of marriage, replacing it with the romantic conviction that for each individual in society there is a right one out there waiting to be found. This one-person theory, in turn, is combined with Cervantes' belief in free choice. It is up to men and women alike to choose the right person based on feeling the real thing. On this view, every unmarried person should not only wait or search until their soulmate is located, but also they should at last marry for romantic love, not lifelong maintenance, especially if they want to live a healthy mental life. In sum, the novel's many different unions concretize Cervantes' primary thesis that drawing up a marriage contract simply on a monetary basis, where a family fortune is at the heart of a marriage, is an inadequate basis for a romantic union. In other words, by upsetting traditional patterns of tribal law and established society, Miguel dramatized unions that bring new order and breathe new life into a stale social system. What's more, by challenging the customary view that marriage is a useful alliance of convenience defined by mercenary tactics and social pressures, Cervantes shows readers that any intimate partnership should be defined by a generous wish to give, benefit, and succor the beloved. Another aspect of romantic love that Cervantes examines in Don Quixote relates to, quote, how a person can differentiate true love from false lust, since they look the same by producing the same tears, sighs, and groans, end quote. This question in turn leads to broader considerations about the nature of romantic love, like the concern, for example, that the appearance of a relationship actually corresponds with its reality, or the idea that one can conquer lustful relationships by the avoidance and repudiation of powerful emotions that are impulsive and fickle in nature. In other words, Cervantes, as an author and narrator, differentiates true love from idle infatuation by highlighting the idea that a prudent woman can turn her thoughts away from an inordinate desire to have sex with someone by decent and continuous occupation away from the lust object. Take a character named Altisidora, for example. Her actions prove that she is too fond of Don Quixote, for she repeatedly laments that she burns, pines, and perishes out of her aching love for him. Demonstratively sentimental, melancholic, tempestuous, and tearful, according to the occasion, sometimes Altisidora weeps. At other times she cultivates a pallor and adopts a look of suffering. Since she cares too much as opposed to not caring enough, Cervantes shows readers that the remedy for a young lady suffering from lust sickness, or anyone for that matter, is to keep busy in a productive activity apart from idle infatuation. Essentially, so she thinks not of a boy toy or some other adolescent crush, but about finishing the job at hand instead. He does this by saying that since lust counts on careless sloth to aid and abet, much sewing and embroidery and ceaseless occupation are the antidotes to the virulence of an amorous inclination. End quote. Again, Don Quixote repeats this advice when he tells the Duchess of Aragon that Altisidora should, quote, apply herself to the activity of lace making, because so long as she is busy with her bobbins, the image or images of her desires will not be busy in her mind. End quote. Sancho Panza seconds this advice by swearing that, quote, never has he in all his life seen a lace maker who died of love, since busy girls think more about finishing the job in hand than about their boyfriends. End quote. This advice, in turn, coupled with Altisidora's foolish actions, shows readers that excessive, quote, love is a heavy burden, a cause of toil, trouble, and frustration, a type of madness, an overpowering force that robs a woman of her self-control and wise judgment, a destructive passion that makes the rational woman act wildly. End quote. In short, Cervantes expresses that the genesis of modern romantic pair bonding grants to love a life-preserving value, since it meets two creatures' emotional needs and in the process continues the species and society. Contrary to the view that marriage is a business transaction designed to elevate one's social standing as much as possible, Cervantes presents the view that while the course of true love might not run smoothly, it should triumph eventually. This, as you may gather, is a very brief synopsis of the meaning and importance of love and marriage in Don Quixote. For a fuller treatment of this topic, you can read an extensive portion of my essay at www.don-quixote-explain.com. For people who'd like to read still further, you can download my entire 18,000 word, 75 page essay through my online store. Thank you.